Hi, welcome to the Brief Book Reviews channel, otherwise known as An Old Guy Reviews the book that he's read this week. So what's the old guy read this week? Well, the book I've read this week is this one. It's called A Death on Location by the Reverend Richard Coles. It was published as a hardback here in the UK on the 5th of June 2025 by W&N, Weidenfeld and Nicholson. And it's another outing for Canon Daniel Clement, rector of Champton St Mary. So this is set in the UK and it's cosy crime at its best. What's it all about, I hear you say? Well, we're told that in 1603, Lord de Flores, owner of Champton House, welcomed King James I's wife, Queen Anne of Denmark, to Champton House. It was a grand occasion. There was a masque ball, there were festivities, and a good time was enjoyed by all. The current Lord Flores, Bernard Lord Flores, is in a slightly different situation than his ancestor back in the 1600s. He owns Champton House. It's a very old manor home, stately home. It's had bits added to it, and it's costing a fortune to run. Now, he's got a wedding coming up next year. His son and heir is getting married, and he could actually do with a bit of cash to do the place up a bit. As luck would have it, Canon Clement's brother Theo, who was an actor, visits Lord Flores, Bernard, with one of his friends from the film industry. And whilst talking, Theo mentions that he's got a part in a new film coming out called A Woman's Boundless Intrigue, which focuses on Queen Anne of Denmark and her marriage to King James I, and mentions that obviously there was this famous ball at Champton House. So they get talking and they realise that they can help each other because Theo's mate in the film industry is looking for a location, and Lord Flores, Bernard, is looking for a few quid to do up the stately home. So they come to a deal where they're going to film some of the scenes for A Woman of Boundless Intrigue at Champton House. So we move forward now to spring 1990, and the whole village of Champton is basically involved in making this Hollywood movie. There's a Hollywood A-lister called Gillian Smith who's come to play the lead role. She's English, but she's based in LA, and the villagers are fluttered with the fact that a Hollywood A-lister is in town making a film. Basically, most of the village are roped in to help one way or the other. Even the rector is called in as a consultant to get theological matters right, religious matters right. A lot of the villagers are playing extras, and even Miss March from the local clothes shop has closed the shop down for a while she works as a seamstress costume fixer for the film crew. And obviously there's a massive entourage with making a large film. There are all the extras from the village. There's costumes to be made, and this is period costumes. So it's gowns, farthingales, crowns, you name it. They've got to be made. So the whole village is above with this fact that the circus has come to town, if you will. So we start off with a scene where it's called the Masque of Queens, where the various queens from various different places are with Anne, the Queen of Denmark, and that scene turns out to be a mass scene, lots of extras, and at the end of it, one of the local villagers, a lady called Margaret Porteous, who's playing, let me get this right, Candace Queen of the Ethiopians, goes to Miss March, who's acting as a costume fixer, and said, I don't know, I've got this terrible stitch. Do you think you could pop me in Nurofen or something like that? And Miss March said, no, I can't be doing that. You'd have to see one of the medics for that. I can't dispense drugs. But probably if you've got a stitch, it's just you're wearing a really, really tight corset. And what I'll do is I'll relax that a bit. So she goes about undoing the corset a bit to relax it, and then all of a sudden there's a pool of blood, and it turns out that Margaret Porteous didn't have a stitch. She had a stab wound, and there's been a murder on the location. So they call Daniel Clement. They said, right, we don't need you in your consultancy role. We need you to have a look at this. Contact your mate Neil. So he contacts his mate Neil Vanloo, Detective Sergeant Neil Vanloo, and the old Bill are quickly all over the place. Now, clearly, there's a couple of issues there. A murder scene on a film set isn't a great idea. There are loads and loads of people involved. There's a mass sort of throng of people in the set, and clearly the film's director Dick is going, "Oh, hang on a minute, we've got a film to make here. I realise something's gone wrong, but we're under a lot of financial pressures here." So there's those sort of problems, and there's also the problem between. There's a slight problem between Daniel and Neil, who in a previous tale Daniel had thought Neil wanted to have a bit of a closer relationship and found he didn't. So there's a little bit of coldness, fragile between Daniel and Neil, but they realise that they have to get on and try and use their sleuthing powers to solve this problem. So the problem is, was Margaret, who wouldn't say boo to a goose is she's the local history buff in the village, but why would anyone want to kill Margaret? They just can't get their head around it. And they're also thinking, well, maybe with all those various queens and all their costumes and such a melee, whoever murdered her got the wrong one. Maybe they were after Gillian Smith, Hollywood A-lister. So there's all that going on. The further complication is that Daniel's brother Theo, who's an actor, was involved in that scene, had a dagger, and now can't find it. So clearly he's saying to Daniel, look, I didn't kill her, but it's not looking good, is it? So there's that whole thing going on. And as well as Daniel and Neil trying to solve the murder mystery, we have the usual side plots. We have Daniel's mother Audrey, who seems to cook for as many people as she fancies, having problems at the rectory with guests inviting themselves and that going wrong, and also the typical English Audrey's invited Bernard Lord Flores as well as Gillian Smith, the A-lister, and it's like, who's first in the pecking order? Is it a lord or is it an A-lister? And where we're going to sit them. So all that going on. The added complication of two sausage dogs, and you'll see one on the front cover, a very good, very well designed cover. They are called Cosmo and Hilda. Hilda's the quiet one. Cosmo's a bit of a lad, and he's already nicked the director's Dick sausage. So, but Bernard Lord Flores has taken a bit of a shine to Cosmo. So Cosmo, in fact, has a bit of a leading role in this because. There's another side plot where the local drug dealer is up to no good as well. So lots going on. It's a very well written murder mystery. There's a fantastic set. I mean, the set is a stately home which is being used as a film location. So there's that great set. There's a wide cast of characters, and it's well written. You don't know till right at the end who the perpetrator is. So really, really good, well-written murder mystery. It is very cosy crime, and it's also very English. There are references in there to "It Ain't Half Hot, Mum," Bruce Forsyth's catchphrase, Austin Allegro's. So if you're not from the UK, you might be going, hang on a minute, what's going on here? But nevertheless, that doesn't detract from it. It's a well-written murder mystery. Cozy crime at its best. It won't be for everyone because, if you like your murder mysteries, fast and furious, lots of action, lots of murders, then this isn't for you. But if you like a bit of cozy crime, a bit of humour in here as well, then I'd recommend it. I'd say, I'd give it 7 out of 10. I think that's it for this week's brief book review. I suppose the one thing to say is on the previous book by Richard Coles that I reviewed, Murder Under the Mistletoe, I said if there was one thing wrong with it, it was the fact that the murder didn't take place until 2/3 of the way into the book. Well, that isn't the problem with this one. We get the murder happening right at the start of the book, and we have to try and unwind the tale from there against as I said, a very large background, large number of people. And we also look at the interaction between, obviously, Canon and Clement and Neil. Can they repair their relationship to get to the bottom of this and find out who the perp is? So, yeah, good read. 403 pages. As I said, I'd give it 7 out of 10. well worth a read. I think that's it for this week's brief book review. 10/10 till we do it again. Thanks for watching. Bye.